Hello, one and all. I was going to say good evening then. Hello, one and all. I'm completely confused. Must be the weather. Yes. Hello, it is the tNb Gaming Podcast. This is the Retro Bear, welcoming you along to another exciting live episode where tonight we have, as usual, a special guest on with a couple of the tNb lads. And tonight we are discussing wrestling games. Yes, now that might be a very niche subject for some of you out there, but bear with us because it's a big part of some of our gaming histories. I played quite a few back in the day, and I know a couple of our panelists have done as well. So we'll be talking about that usually towards the second half of the show, or from about 8:45 onwards, or 45 minutes in anyway. And then we'll get on with that. Before then, we'll be talking about some games that we've been playing. As we always do, give you a few recommendations. And we'll be taking comments and questions from the chat. So if there's anything you want to ask at all, feel free to post it in there. If it's relating to the wrestling games, you can leave it till a little bit later on till we get onto that subject. Otherwise, I'm not going to have time to go back and forth on the comments. It's a bit warm, isn't it? It's a bit warm today. I've got the door open. I don't have the door open here. The door is usually quiet, which is why you can see the dressing gown, which is there ready for winter on the back of the door. I've got a fan to the side of me here blowing hot air at me, which is great because that's something what fans are meant to do. So if you do hear any fan noises in the background tonight, just bear with us because we're all going to be a bit hot, and we're just doing our very best to keep cool. So I hope you're keeping cool wherever you may be and enjoying the weather. Let's see who we've got with us tonight. We've got Gavin Snoopy Man, one of my cohorts on Fall Guys. Thanks for everybody who came last night and played on that. Good to see you there again, Gavin. Susie's here. I think you're out of the loft and probably in the relative cool elsewhere in the house, but I hope you're okay, Susie. Nice to see you here. Stu's here, Generation Pixel, YouTuber of the year, of course. Good to hear. He was a guest on our last podcast a couple of weeks ago. JBTV, good Sunday evening. Yes, at the moment it is. We'll see how this goes. It could be interesting on this one, but good to see you here. Trev's here as well. Good evening, Trev. I'm also on Fall Guys last night. Good to see you. And No Games Alice here as well, who's coming on to lay the smackdown on the host. I'm waiting for a run-in. There's going to be a run-in at some point. Someone's going to appear from around the back here. Possibly Eddie, I don't know, with a chair and knock me out halfway through. So there we go. And a Retro Claire's here as well. And downstairs, where it's a lot cooler than it is up here. It's baking hot up here. This is the problem. You have your games rooms upstairs, don't you? And you tend to put them in lofts or small rooms where all the sun gets on it and it's really, really hot. So, anyway. But I hope you've been keeping cool. We're all keeping our fingers crossed for some rain, definitely. We need to break this temperature a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to bake. Anyway, just a quick mention before we start. A massive, once again, congratulations to Rob Gernaldinho Plays, who can't be with us tonight. And it's a shame he can't be with us because, one, it's a subject that he would be obviously very, very good on, but also because he wanted to talk a bit more about his achievement, which he did earlier on this week, which was getting 1 million gamer score on Xbox. So it's like a 12-year achievement, and he's done most of it on YouTube over the last 3 or 4 years. He did a live stream on the other night where he got past the million mark, and quite a few of us there to watch it with it. So once again, from everybody on the podcast and your good friends, Rob, many congratulations. I'm sure most people will be wanting to send their good wishes to you as well. It's a shame you couldn't come on and do this. I know you've got other commitments tonight, but hopefully you'll come on soon and fill in a bit more about that. But once again, many, many congratulations on that. Oh, got Mark. What's Mark saying? Hate to do this, Russ, but David has asked me to get you to take his picture down, or you'll have to pay him £500. Oh dear, that'll be the day. You got to remember he sent it to me. I didn't go and print this off. A website or anything like that. This is something he's given me. So in a way, he should be paying me £500 to put it out there. But anyway, there we go. If you wonder what we're talking about, it's that photograph up there. There we go. David, retro games played badly. There we go. Eddie Rollercore in the West Midlands. What's going on, says Trev. There we go. James Mitch, much more is here. Good to see you in, James. I know this will be a subject close to your heart, so I'm glad to see you here as well. There we go. Right, let's bring in our guest this week, who approached me about doing this particular subject. And as always, I don't say no. As we've been around YouTube quite some time, known him for a number of years now. I think we've done certainly one live stream together at some point in the past. But a massive wrestling fan, and you'll see by some of the paraphernalia, that's the best way, the items around the room. You know what I mean? And he's got this really fantastic event coming up in January, which I know I want to ask him about. It is Sean from the Pompey Games Room. Good evening, Sean.
Hello. The things we do for a live stream, it's like hotter than the sun. I can testify. You said that most people have rooms upstairs and attics and stuff. I'm downstairs and it's still baking. So, Jesus, it's
I sat there questioning my own sanity earlier about 6:30 when somebody else mentioned how hot it was, and I thought, you know what, I really should have cancelled tonight. But no, the show must go on. We have to do it. We have to carry on and do this, don't we? So,
can you imagine? That would have been too much for people to take. A hosepipe ban and tNb being cancelled. That's just that's not going to happen. That's not going to go down well. That's riot territory, that, Ross. So
we might move the date around a bit, but we are consistent. I will say that anyway. Anyway, good to have you on, my friend. Thank you very much for volunteering to come on and talk about
definitely
this chosen subject. And I can see you got the logo in the background, which is great to see, because I was going to put mine on the telly tonight like I usually do, and I thought that chucks out so much heat that by the end of it, this side of me be melted like I had a stroke or something. So I just didn't want to have that there, so just leave it out of the way. But
I am far enough away from it. It does. I can feel the heat, like literally, but. Yeah,
it's a lot smaller as well, so that's probably chucking out less heat than it is. You come to talk about wrestling games tonight. I mean, I can see from over your right shoulder, you got the belt on the wall.
Yes.
So yes, a big wrestling fan.
Huge wrestling fan, love it. I'll say not. It's like the old thing. The old stuff was always better and stuff like that. Everything tastes better when you were a kid. Mars bars were smaller nowadays than they were back in the day. Everything was better back in the day. I'm a very, very big wrestling fan. I've got a lot of sort of memories of my brothers and things like that, and playing games, especially retro games. I mean, just what's not to love? Some people love EastEnders. Some people love to watch the guys in spandex throwing themselves off cages. So
that's it. Yep. I'm there with you.
Yeah, all good. So
I've never seen anybody been thrown off a cage in EastEnders yet. That's probably the only thing they haven't done.
No, can you imagine that? I'll watch it. That's the thing. I'd probably watch it if that happened. But,
just on the one. Just see what it's like, and then you're hooked, aren't you? And then you watch it for the next 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Well, like I said, great to have you on, mate, and we'll come back to you in a second.
Appreciate it.
No answering for Jimmy Retro. Good evening, Jimmy. Hope you're okay. Is the picture laminated? No, this one isn't. It's a paper copy only. He wanted to charge me more for the laminated ones, but there we go. Mark says it's the 7th copy this month. If you ask him nicely, he'll send you one free of charge. There we go. Jimmy says you've upgraded your internet.
Yeah, I'm glad someone has noticed. So I'm now welcome to the world of hardwire, guys. So
there we go.
If no one knows, I did I can't even remember what it was. Jimmy might remember it. He might have been on the thing. I think it was Swap Shop the first time I went on, and it was just like watching me in 8-bit. It was like pixels. It was so bad. It was pretty bad, but it is. Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, it's crystal clear. So.
I see people notice these things, don't they? That's it. Ian from the RGB is here. Good evening, Ian. Hope you're okay. Councillor tNb, has the world gone mad? No, we just take sabbaticals every now and again. That's what we do. Mark said, I'd rather fight King Kong Bundy than Sonia Jackson.
I assume she's from EastEnders.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, been an interesting fight, that one, I think, for sure. Paul's here, Retrobait, who was on the last one as well. Hope you're all good. Hope you're okay, mate. Keeping nice and cool up there. Right. Okay, so that's Susan in the chat. Let's bring in our first tNb member tonight. The other one hasn't turned up yet. You probably guess what I'm talking about. Broadcasting all the way from his loft, so I'm not sure how long he's going to hold out tonight. He's got as much fanage and cold air blowing on windows open. It is our very aptly named friend Heat Fighter 2. Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you doing, more importantly?
I'm all right. I'm hot, but I'm comfortable. I don't feel like I'm going to pass out. I've got beer. I've got pop. So yeah, I think we're all right.
You're okay. Oh, that's the main thing. It's good to have you on, mate. I know it's a subject that you know an awful lot about as well. So it's always good to have you on and doing something that you know a bit about, which is good.
I feel like I've ascended to like the rank of proper wrestling fan actually recently because I don't actually watch it anymore.
Oh, right.
Yeah, most wrestling fans you'll find, most real wrestling fans just talk about how good it used to be and don't actually watch it now. So I think I've achieved that.
Oh.
I think I'm there, Pete. Every year at the Royal Rumble when that rocks up, I resubscribe to the network the WWE network to watch a few old ones, but that's as far as it goes. But
I've not even done that this year. But yeah, I'm excited for wrestling now. Actually, for the first time in a couple of years now that Vince McMahon's gone, because I've always had a bit of I've always thought that Triple H would be the one to save us all, and since he's taken over as creative, they've kind of they're slowly getting rid of the stupid stuff that Vince McMahon implemented, like not being able to say wrestling or wrestler and stuff like that, and not being able to say belt, you have to say championship and stuff like that. That kind of stuff's going out the window. Stuff where Vince has failed the wrestlers on, not seeing their potential because maybe they're a bit smaller and stuff. Those wrestlers that he's fired recently have now slowly becoming brought back in and stuff. And I actually think we're going to have a renaissance over the next couple of years. I think it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Just to jump in there, Pete, sorry, but my favourite Vince McMahon story I ever remember hearing was that he would either fire people or he would basically demote people if they sneezed in a meeting because it was seen as weakness.
He hated illness because it was seen as weak. I bet he had a nightmare over COVID.
Oh, what a hypocrite! He must have got a cold. I love it. But
he's just not real, though, is he? He's just not a real person. He's a robot.
He's looking less and less real these days, that's for sure. Anyway, looking very, very his age. Anyway, right. We'll come back to wrestling in a bit. Feed Me Chicken just popped in to say hi to everybody and put everyone on notice that he's winning the social media Royal Rumble, which I'll talk about in a second because I wanted to bring that up. Al's got his air conditioning on again. He's just letting me know he's freezing. That's good. Stu Generation Pixel says the belt's coming to Scotland, and Al said there's only going to be one winner, which is him, I think. And Mr. Chicken says, unless you glitch in the Rumble, there is no chance you're eliminating me. I am the cock of YouTube. There we go. So on this subject, Sean, very, very quickly, before we get into everything, you put this stream up a couple of weeks ago where you sort of done a wrestling event with different creator wrestlers accounts and other things on there, which you and a group of your friends did, and you've come up with this idea of doing a social media Royal Rumble in January.
Yeah.
What's that all about? Because I just explain to the people out there who may not be knowing what they're on about.
So first off, I want to say I've only got 3 spaces left. Obviously 30 in a Royal Rumble, unless we're going the greatest Royal Rumble ever of 50 participants, which I don't think there's any game out that it can do, so it's going to be 30. So a group of my friends got together. Like I said, before we came on, I've got so many memories of playing these games with my brothers and friends, and I still speak to a lot of my friends now. And we all thought it would be good to get together, create some of our old creative superstars we used to do, throw them on one memory card, and then just let the computer sim a pay-per-view. So we've done a Royal Rumble in January, and we've just done SummerSlam. So basically, if you want to see Grant Mitchell fighting against Richie from Bottom, that's your sort of video to go and watch. There's a few oddities in that. But anyway, from that, a lot of people commented on the Royal Rumble video about, it'd be great to participate and stuff like that. And I thought, well, why not? So the next game we're doing is actually SmackDown versus Raw 2009. And we've opened it up. So we're going to do a Royal Rumble for anyone that wants to enter. If you go to my channel now, shameless plug.
You're entitled to do that.
There's a video. I don't know why I was doing that for VAR, but anyway, there's a video. And it's basically some vignettes from some people that have already entered. And it's basically going to be people pick someone from the roster from SmackDown versus Raw 2009. Or you can create a wrestler, pop them on a memory card, send them over to me, and I will put them in the game for you. It's going to be 30 wrestlers, all computer simulated, over the top rope, last wrestler, YouTuber, social media Royal Rumble. So it's open to anyone who's got a social media account, whatever it is. And I have actually had customized a belt about this size. It's full metal and everything, which is actually here now. And I'll be honest, I was going to unveil it during this thing, but I haven't actually opened it yet, and it might be really bad quality. So I'm going to hold off on that. But
okay,
yeah,
well,
it's
there's a link to your channel below for anybody who's interested in seeing what it was all about, so they can go along there, and I'll leave that on there for a few moments. Now a few of the YouTube characters have done a few promo videos, haven't they? So that was quite interesting to watch.
I'm expecting one from yourself there, Russ, as well. So obviously
there will be one coming. Yeah.
No, I know there's one coming. I sort of sprung it on people for about 10 days, and it coincided with the heat wave, so no one was going to. I mean, yeah, there's some good ones on there. I won't say who's done it, but there are some very good ones. So it's like a 5-minute video. If you love seeing YouTubers sort of playing a character and stuff like that, there's some cracking bits and bobs in there. My personal favourite has to be Time Warp James, because he basically just totally disses me during the video, during his vignette. But he actually apologised when he sent it through. He goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry" and stuff. I love James anyway, so I would have put it in if he had put in more. But yeah, there's massive beef between us, and you're going to have to watch the Rumble to see what happens, guys. Pay-per-view, it's all.
That's it. Yeah, no, it's a great idea, and I mean, the fact you filled 27 out of 30 slots in pretty quick time. It shows a lot of interest in there. So
and it's just a laugh at the end of the day. And the belt, by the way, that's customised, I'll send that to the winner. And every 6 months, my friends and I are trying to meet up and do these videos. So every 6 months, that YouTuber will then have to go into the next Rumble, defend the belt, and then if they lose it, it gets passed on to the next tuber, and just passed around the community, a bit of a laugh and a bit of fun. So
there's a physical prize at the end of it, more stuff to put on your shelf and display everybody. So there we go.
It could replace that picture behind you there, Russ.
That's true. It'll be a lot better looking than that, I tell you. I'm not sure that'll be more than a picture of David, but there we go. Marcus is here, Dad and Lads Gaming. Good to see you in, my friend. So that's great, Sean. Well, like I said, the link was there. I'll put it up a bit later again if you haven't seen that. Go across to
I appreciate that.
Sean's channel and see what it's all about. Right, before we launch into the what we've been playing, Big Daddy's arrived.
Hey,
I'm
evening,
not sure
everyone.
Good evening, Sean. Is that a nickname you have, or is it just
I was going to put Big Belly revived actually after that big kebab.
I was just with that as a secret nickname people gave you. That's it. No, maybe not. How are you doing anyway? Are you all right?
Yeah, not free bad, mate. Yes, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's like I say, it's warm, but I've got fan turbine blowing behind me, and I've got this little thing here. It even tells me time. Look.
See how long you've been sweating.
Yeah, that's it. Oh dear me. We've got Rach here as well. 8-bit Rach. Good evening, Rach. Hope you're okay. A bit of chat going on there. Right then, so the gang's all here for tonight. Let's kick off with games we've been playing recently. I've got to call him Sean 1 and Sean 2. Just realised. Special guest Sean, is there any games that you've been playing recently that you'd like to recommend to our viewers? While you're
not the first time I've been called special, guys. Anyway, no, I'm good with that. Don't worry. So yeah, I played a fair few. Obviously, being a dad to 2, working full time, and the hot weather, and just general life, you don't get any time really. But as and when I've had time, my daughter is just getting into Mario Kart on the Switch. So she's 4. So so she's just getting into that. I'm really enjoying playing that with her. And that game, when I started playing the new Mario Kart, I think it's Mario Kart 8? Sorry if I've got that wrong. It is. Yeah. It's a brilliant game, but there's so many tracks. I mean, it's insane. And some of them, you would love to have been in some of those brainstorm meetings when they were doing it. Just like. Anyway, I thought we could have a massive carousel and people have to jump onto it, and if they don't get it, they fall into lava. Oh, that's great, John. Go with it. Get it on the game, guys.
Some crazy tracks on it. Crazy.
There are, but it's addictive. It is really addictive. I know not a lot of people love the Wii version, but the Wii version seems to be my go-to one. I absolutely love that one. But I've also been playing a bit of Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Really gotten back into that recently, again on the Switch. Since I got the Switch, it's really changed the way I game. I don't know if everyone in the comments can testify to that, and you guys as well, but just the ability to either plug that console in and play it on the TV, or just literally sit with it and just play.
I've gone from never playing handheld to playing handheld quite a lot now since I got a Switch.
It is incredible. Such a great system. I mean, I pretty much am a Sega fanboy. I mean, I've got some Nintendo stuff and some love for Nintendo consoles that you can see over my shoulder, but I mean, I've got to hand it to Nintendo. They know what they're doing when they come out with a next-gen console and things like that. But yeah, so I played a bit of that. I played a bit of SmackDown versus Raw 2006, which was for the SummerSlam video, and also played. I haven't got it at hand. It's a basketball game, Hang Time, Super Hang Time for on the Mega Drive. It's basically an NBA tournament game. It's pretty good. It's not as good as NBA. I actually recorded a video for it. I don't know when I'm going to upload it though, but there'll be something from me in the future. Yeah, it's a good game. Very good. It's not as good as NBA, which is good because if you're thinking and on the fence about getting it, it's about 75 quid to buy, which is just ridiculous for a retro game. But anyway, that's
and a basketball game to boot as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why it's so, because not many people bought it when it came out. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah. By the way, can I just say the stream you guys did on video game prices was, I've watched a few of those episodes where people talk about the retro game prices, and that was one I actually caught live and commented quite a lot. And I've got to admit, that was one of the best episodes because one with Dankster running the store. I mean, it was just, you get a first-hand person there that's saying what people expect him to do about deals and things like that. And also just people buying stuff on eBay, it's like, it's a supply and demand community, isn't it? Everyone wants, say, the Sega stuff. Everyone wants the Nintendo stuff from kids. And it's just, the game price is crazy. But, yeah, absolutely brilliant. I just wanted to drop that in there because I actually watched that back about a week ago, actually, as well, because it's, really good content, really good points made by everyone. And
thank you very much, mate.
Just the state of the community at the moment in regards to games. It's just a bit. I'm just glad I started collecting like about 15 years ago. I'll be honest.
I think a lot of us are very grateful for that. I mean, I appreciate the kind words, and I didn't know you were going to say that, so that's really good of you. But it's one of those things, we do occasionally like to throw in something which is quite current, and as you said, having Dana on because he's got his shop. He chose a subject. He agreed to come on. That's what he wanted to talk about. So, as you said, somebody who's right at the front of it, which is fantastic. So, I'm great. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for saying that.
That's all I've played, by the way. So it's over to someone else now.
No, that's fine, mate. Thank you for those. What we got? Let's have a look. Joe Gaming Girlie's here. Good evening, Joe. Hope you're all right. She's just done a video about games that she wants to see. A physical re-release. That was it. I think it was a physical re-release. Anyway, it went up yesterday, I think it was. So, hope you're okay. Rob's here. Gandaldina plays. Yeah, good to see you, Rob. If you missed my introduction, Rob's gone past 1 million gamer score. So, big congratulations to him. Glad he's in the chat. Danny hates the retro gaming masters here. Good evening, Danny. Hope you've had some luck around the car boots again. If you watch Danny's videos, he picks up all sorts of different stuff. So, there we go. Just to see if I missed anybody in the chat. I don't think so. There we go. So that's it. Right. Pete, what have you been playing you could recommend to us?
Well, I've recently bought the Bitmap books, the Go Straight Guide to 2D beat-em-up games. And I've sort of taken it upon myself to use that as, like, you remember the old I Spy books that you used to get for, like, road trips? Where you'd like have I Spy like farm animals or something, you'd have to like take them off when you see them in the book.
Yeah,
I'm using that as essentially an I Spy book of beat 'em up games, and I intend to play and hopefully try and finish every game in that book. So I've been playing through a few beat 'em ups this last couple of weeks. So I played. I know it's an arcade game, so saying you completed it's not a big achievement, if you've got unlimited credits. But I played through 64th Street, Detective Story. I played through that on the arcade, but it's an arcade game by Jellicoe, and it's just a really cool take on the 2D beat 'em up, because like normally on a 2D beat 'em up, when you get close enough, you can like sort of grab hold of people and throw them. On this one, you can sort of direct your throws, and if you throw them into the background, they'll like hit the wall or a window or something, and the background will gradually get destroyed. Like you'll smash windows, you'll make holes in walls and stuff, and it just makes it sort of more interesting. It's not just like to just try and get from A to B and kick as many heads in as you can, but it's fun to see what you can possibly do to the level along the way, and also you get like little power-ups and stuff from doing it. So it just adds something a bit new to the genre. Well, not really new because this is like a late 80s game, but just something to the genre you haven't seen in others. And That's the only one I've finished, but I've also been playing through Jay and Silent Bob Mole Brawl on the NES, which is, I think it's a 2020 NES game based on Jay and Silent Bob, from the View Askew films. It's set as a direct sequel to Mole Rats. So, for those who've seen that film, the end of it, you've got the game show that gets disrupted, and you start off as Jay and Silent Bob trying to make your escape from the mall security and stuff. And like the first boss is Ulfoz, who's the head of security in the film and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. I've not gone very far because it's a NES game and it's hard. But yeah, it's a nice sort of throwback to like Dungeons and Dragons, Double Dragon. And even to the point where you fight basically a Bobo, who's one of the bosses from that. You fight him, but he's got a big pretzel head because he's running a pretzel stand. But yeah, it's fun. It's full of throwbacks to the films. There's like the hockey guys from Dogma and stuff. Assuming anybody here has seen those films.
Yeah, I've seen Dogma. I went to the cinema to see that.
It's one of my favourite films ever. That. But yeah, it's worth a play if you can get hold of it. It's on. I've got it. I acquired it on the NES. Acquired it. I mean, I went on Google and typed in James Alabama Mobile ROM and downloaded it. But you can get it on the Switch and the PS4 as well, and I think maybe the Xbox. So it's worth a play if you like the old Double Dragon type games. I mentioned a Bobo. I've been playing an old PC game called The Bobo's Big Adventure, which is it's a fan made. It was a Flash game, but you can download it now. And you play as a Bobo. I don't know if anyone knows who that is from Double Dragon. He's the big, muscular, sort of orangey coloured wrestler guy.
Yeah.
But on that game, you start off. It says the intro it comes up with this all the characters from NES games have all had their own time to shine apart from one, and then it's it shows that Bobo's son getting kidnapped in the same way as one of the Lee family's girlfriends get kidnapped at the start of Double Dragon. And you start off and it's essentially a Double Dragon level, but as you progress, you go through, I think the second level is an underwater Mario level. You go into a Zelda dungeon where it all goes top down. There's bits where you play as, I don't know what wrestling game it is on the NES, but you end up fighting somebody in the ring on that. And it sticks so faithful to all these different games, and it's well worth a playthrough. It's called The Bobo's Big Adventure. If you just type in that and download in Google, you'll come up to a way of downloading it. It's hilarious. It's really violent, and it's just a lot of fun to play. I've had a quick go on a game on the Switch called Terence Hill Slaps and Beans, which is Terence Hill and Bud Spencer Slaps and Beans, which is another beat-em-up game. But it's based on two actors who they're Italian actors and they're household names over there. I thought it sounded weird at first, but they've been making films together since the 50s, and but it's a really fun game, and it's the only game I've played of that type where you can dual wield weapons as well. There's one point when you're in a dining car, and they made a lot of spaghetti western films, and you start off in a spaghetti western setting, and as you sort of play through the game, it goes through more to contemporary films. They made a lot of buddy cop films later on. It sort of moves into more 80s style, Miami Vice style levels and stuff. But yeah, I was in a dining car in a train on one of the western levels, and I'm dual wielding dining chairs as weapons. Really fun. But yeah, I've not played too much of that. It's a really good one. It's a lot better than I thought it would. And I've played a couple of levels of because everyone was playing Turtle Shredder's Revenge the other week.
Yeah,
I played tNt on the Game Boy Advance, which is based on the 2007 Turtles film, the one that didn't really do very well, but it was really good, the CG one. And it's another beat 'em up, and it's made by the guys who made Shredder's Revenge. And they also did Scott Pilgrim and Streets of Rage 4 as well. So it's got pedigree and it's well worth playing. It's a really good one. And they also made Star Wars Episode 3 on Game Boy Advance and DS as well, the same studio.
Okay.
And that's a really good 2D fighter as well. I think most people dismiss stuff like that as being, especially on the handheld consoles, they probably dismiss it as being cheap cash-ins, but these are sort of made with passion 2D fighting games. Obviously, the studio has gone on to make Scott Pilgrim, Streets of Rage 4, and now Shredder's Revenge. So it's obviously got a passion for the genre. So it's well worth playing. And yeah, apart from that, I tried playing Cyberpunk 2077 on the PS5. I thought maybe enough time had gone where to make it playable, and I picked it up cheap on the PS4. I did the PS5 upgrade thing, and I just don't like it. I don't know. It's running fine. I've not had a single glitch so far. I just don't like it. It's got a similar sort of thing to The Witcher for me, where it's just constantly firing up things on your screen for you to read, and you get like a half a second to read it, and then it's gone forever. So it's like a lot of the game mechanics I'm missing. I'm just not enjoying the world. Everywhere you go, it's like you play an open world game in it, like set in a city, and usually like beach areas, country areas, built up city areas, and stuff like this. Everywhere on Cyberpunk just seems to be pipes and neon lights, and it's just so dull. I played about 4 or 5 hours of it, and I'm going to go back to it, but I had to give it up. It just wasn't for me, and it's actually made me, because it's so close to like stuff like Elder Scrolls and Fallout. It's made me kind of worried for Starfield, which is due out I think next year, because I'm worried now that I'm going to pick that up and not enjoy that so much. But at least with that, I don't have to pay for it because it's on Game Pass. So yeah, but I moved on to Resident Evil 4 for that, and everyone knows about Resident Evil 4. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of my all-time favorite games.
Very good game.
Yeah, well, I picked up, so I watched the Netflix series, and although I didn't enjoy it too much, it sort of made me want more Resident Evil. And I played through the remakes of 2 and 3, and I played through the original Resident Evil 1 on the Sega Saturn a few months back. So I picked up 4 to 6 on the PS4 to replay them. And yeah, I think I'm right near the end of Resident Evil 4 now. I love every minute of it, even the bits that are making me swear at the TV, like the catapult bit. But yeah, I'm a bit behind on completing games for these. I'll say I'm a bit behind on the 52 game challenge. I've done 49.
It's only August, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's only August, yeah. But I've not finished a game all week, so I'm hoping I can get Resident Evil 4 finished very soon. But yeah, that's about where I'm at.
Yeah, I haven't finished the game in years. I wonder whether about finishing the game this week. Bloody hell.
Thank God you said that, Russ, because I can't remember the last game I completed.
I can't tell you that.
I want to say a Jay Cartwright comment, a completed Football Manager, but that'll be
yeah, it doesn't really count.
Football Manager?
You can't really, no, it just carries on to the point where...
No, that's the thing in the in-betweeners where Jay Cartwright boasts that he's completed the Football Manager because he gets the England job. So.
Yeah.
So, I've done that several times. So,
yeah. I've managed all sorts of places, Argentina and South Korea and all sorts. Anyway, there we go. Right, so let's go back to the comments. Danny says that the Boot Fairy bought Call of Duty Ghost with a load of 2Ps, one from a tipping point machine. I think CX appreciated the change. James, going back to what Pete was saying, speak to TMNT and Streets of Rage 4, the Mega Drive final fight looks good if anyone has seen it. I haven't seen it. Resident
the
Evil
CD one's supposed to be really good.
Yeah.
I've got it up there. I've still never played it.
Oh, right.
Literally never played it.
James says Resident Evil 4, my second favourite Resident game. Outbreak File 2 is his favourite.
Outbreak File 2 is nobody's favourite.
Well, it's James's favourite. He said this there, didn't he? So,
it was online in the States, wasn't it? But it was in Japan, but I don't think it was online over here. So it was just like you play an online game on your own.
Another shout out for Mega Drive, Mega CD Final Fight. Joe's good that you're enjoying the Resident Evil games. And Steve, Cooper's World is here. Good evening, Steve. Hope you're okay, mate.
Steve.
Right, Big Daddy Sean. I'm going to call you that from now on. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. Anything you'd like to talk about you've been playing?
I'm glad you're all sat down, because wait for the I ready.
We're going to brace ourselves, aren't we?
I've been playing Nintendo games.
What?
Yes.
God, I wasn't expecting you to say that. No, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, as part of this Nintendo month, I've been playing some SNES games on the old, not on the original machine, of course, on the old Porky Box. And I've got 4 games of world now. 3 of them I couldn't really get into. First of all, Daffy Duck Marvin missions. And yeah, I thought it was going to be pretty good, like a Tasmania style kind of game. which I suppose it is. It's 2D platformer, but controls are horrendous. He just slides about, and even though he's not, well, it appears to me he's not near the end of a platform, he just falls off. He carries on going and falling off, and that frustrated me pretty quickly. So,
on that count, just before you go on to your next one, sorry to interrupt you, but the Looney Tune games that were on the Super Nintendo, you got Rabbit Rampage, which is a bit like that as well. There's the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner game, which is like that, and I played Daffy Duck ages ago on emulation years ago, and I had exactly the same problem. It's too slidey; it slips around, and I don't like games like that. I really don't. I don't feel in control of it. So I understand where you're coming from on that one.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And my patience with that soon waned, and I moved on to. I thought, all right, I'll go for a shooter. I mean, I was basically going through these here, as you'll see. I went on Darius Twin, and I thought, I'm sure Darius is a good game, good shooter. I'm sure I played Darius before, but I've never played Darius Twin. It's far too hard for me. It's absolutely hard as nails, and I don't even think I got anywhere near from level 1, and I was just getting destroyed all the time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What have you done with Sean? What's about Nintendo games?
Eddie's kidnapped me, hasn't he, into this bloody Nintendo month group. Next, I went on to. I thought it might be a bit of fun, but it's a Christmas game, and you control Santa Claus days before Christmas. Days as in DAZE.
What made you play that?
It was just next in line. And
just trying to think cold, aren't you?
Yeah, cold, Russ. Next week's 24.
Because as I'm scrolling through the list, I can see screenshots. It shows it screenshots and sometimes a little bit of video of it. And I thought, that looks good. That looks fun. And I just couldn't. I just got stuck. I've no idea where to go. I don't know how to move about. And I quickly give that up. The one saving grace was a game called Do Re Mi Fantasy. Right, I'm going to go for Japanese.
Oh, here we go.
Nilon no Doki Doki Daibuken. All right. So
I've no idea. I'm not sure how many people you've offended by saying that. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm sure Sean's trying to get cancelled.
What a great little game. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it. And it's a platformer, 2D platformer. Very, as you'd expect, very Japanese, cutesy. And it played like a dream. It reminded me very similar to Wonder Boy. And on this, you can fire bubbles. So, first of all, I wonder if this is all to do with Bubble Bobble, but I don't believe it is. But you can fire bubbles, catch the enemies in the bubbles, and like Bubble Bobble, go into the bubble and it disperses them. You collect musical notes in this game. I'm loving it. And controls are nice and fluid. And I reckon it is a game I will go back to. I give it about 20 minutes play. Bearing in mind, I give the previous 3 about 2. But it's a game I could really get into. So hopefully on my next set of days off, I will go back to that. And obviously, I'm going to play more Nintendo games.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Can I just ask why the D's? Why were you working for the D's?
I know why.
Yeah.
Because I'd already gone through A, B, and C before on previous days. I just thought, well, I went through the D's on one particular day. I thought I'd just mention them games for this episode. I mean,
Can I just jump in there? Has the Easter Bunny ever tried to cash in on retro gamers and release a game like Days Before Christmas? Because that game just makes no sense. I've played Days Before Christmas.
On that James Hall game I was talking about, he's actually one of the bad guys, one of the boss characters you have to fight.
Oh.
It's the Easter Bunny.
That's typical Bunny. That is typical.
Yeah.
I only want to appear in a game if I'm going to be bad. It's like, typical.
We mentioned that game years ago,
Bullshit.
didn't we? Ages ago, I'm sure we did. We talked about that one. I'm sure we have.
I have heard that somewhere before, so yeah, I might have been. Yeah, my favourite Christmas game. Sorry, just tangent. Obviously, Christmas fans, cool air, all that
that's
stuff.
it. Yeah,
all
else.
One of my favourite games when I was in school, and it got released a few years ago. Again, re-released. It was called Elf Bowl, and you used to they just basically used to insult you when you hit them with the bowling ball. It was it was so funny, so good. Yeah,
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that started life as a public domain game and then got released on major systems and started charging people money for it, and people realised it was absolute. Is there a game? I think it was a Game Boy Advance version of it. I'm sure there is.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Yeah,
legendary.
Yeah, it's not a good game by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it's not. But the PC version back in the day, there was 2 levels to it because there was like being in school. There was like you could get swear words on the game. It was like it was revolutionary. They would basically just insult you when you hit them. It was childish humour. But we're talking about Father Christmas and in a platformer game in Easter Bunny who's like got an Uzi. So I think it fits in quite well here. So let's be honest.
I was just going to say it, but James has just commented on it. Said Die Hard Trilogy is the best Christmas game in it, Sean.
It's not a Christmas. It's not to do with Christmas.
It's a well-known thing, Sean. It's a well-known thing between Seans. I am exactly the same as you. One of my friends, he says it's a Christmas movie. It's snowing. That's it. You know.
Exactly.
It's not even snowing on the first one, but.
Oh dear. Santa Sean, he needs no reason to play Christmas games, says Rob. This is making me think of the Wizard song, I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day, says Danny. Who also said the plants could do with the snowman bringing the snow, though it would give them some much needed water. Absolutely right. We mentioned the Die Hard Trilogy being a Christmas game. Steve loved Elf Bowling. There you go, Sean. We also enjoyed it as well. Danny completed all 3 Die Hard Trilogy games back when it came out.
So did I, and it was on Christmas Day too, which was.
I was just about to say, did you do it on Christmas Day? Yeah.
Well, it wasn't when it came out. It was when I first got a PlayStation. It was on Christmas. So.
I love the way that someone saw. They obviously saw these lovely white fields out their window, sitting there on Christmas Day, lovely dinner, and go. You know what? That's missing a bit of blood. Yeah, got to get some blood on those. Got to get some blood on that snow. Yeah, that's all good.
I think I remember playing Apocalypse on Christmas Day, that Bruce Willis one. Traditional, good old family entertainment. That one, that was good. Yeah, perfect time for Christmas. Well, thank you very much indeed for that, chaps. Looking around some games you recommended. If there's anything that you've heard that you might not want to try, then by all means do let us know how you get on with that. But now we're going to get on to the subject of the week or the episode, or I still don't have a proper title for that. So, if you're late to the show, we are talking this week about wrestling games because Sean over here, because we've got Sean down there as well, so I'll do Sean over here. He's our special guest. He has to want to talk about wrestling games. Now, this is something that I've got, so I can talk about. I've got a bit of experience with because I've played an awful lot of wrestling games over the years. I bought an awful lot of wrestling games over the years, and I started way back. My first wrestling game was WrestleMania on the Amiga, which came out to great fanfare the one Christmas because finally because WWF was a big thing back then, and you finally got this license, even though there had been games before that on the NES. There was a WrestleMania game, so you see advertised in the back of American comic books, and there was a series of games after that. There was also a game called Micro League Wrestling, which many people may not have heard of before. I know Sean's on his head, but this was a game that came out on the Amiga, Commodore 64, possibly the Atari ST as well. And it was weird because it was like a role-playing wrestling game, wasn't it? It was. Yeah,
I played it on the Commodore 64 when I was very young.
And it had digitized graphics, which didn't do an awful lot, and you had to pick a move, which would. The computer would try and counter, or you try and counter the computer's move. And it was like a role-playing game, and it didn't get very well reviewed at all. And I think a lot of people still think it's a pretty terrible game. But I remember seeing that, thinking, "Wow, what a great idea that was!" And of course, being a fan of the wrestling on the telly, I was like, this is fantastic. But my first one was WrestleMania in '89. I don't know if anybody else got that one. Was it 89 and 90? Probably 1990, maybe a bit later, actually, 1991, sorry. Trying to remember it was. Because it had British Bulldog and Mr. Perfect in it as well. But it wasn't a very good game. It was a pretty rotten attempt at doing it. It got the big graphics of the arcade, but limited gameplay. The only good thing about it was it came with a free video, which was 10 minutes long, and it was just a promotional video for other stuff. But it was great, that video. Phil, what was your first wrestling game as such? You got you into them?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm glad you teed it up like that, because I've got a set of games here to the side of me, which I did sort of show you before we started. And the idea was that I would pick out my favourite games and basically talk about why I liked those games to that system. So you just talking about that really sort of has helped me there. So my first real wrestling game that I remember playing, funnily enough, was on the Commodore 64, the game you mentioned, which unfortunately the name now escapes me, because I was researching, I was trying to find the Commodore 64 role-play wrestling game, and it finally came up when I did it, and I recognised 3 or 4 of the little screenshots on the video the person had played, and yeah, it was awful. It took forever as well. I don't think I ever successfully managed to. Yeah, it was not. I was very young at the time, but it was not for a first introduction to a wrestling series that I would go on to absolutely adore and love and sort of cherish my memories of. Yeah, not at all. But anyway, yeah. So my gaming really started. I remember playing Steel Cage Challenge on the Game Boy.
Oh yeah.
And I was hooked by it, and it was a friend. Yes, there you go. Look at that quality.
That is the NES version, but yeah,
that is it's a similar cover for that. I remember seeing it. I remember playing it. Now I never owned a Game Boy as a child, so whenever I went around, my friend Lee Muller lives in Portsmouth, still lives there. I'd be amazed if he's watching, but anyway. Used to go around his house quite a lot after school. Used to play on the Game Boy, things like that, Tetris. But I always gravitated towards that. We didn't have cable TV back in the day, so you could never watch it. But anyway, it was always that thing. Like, you knew all the celebrities, like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, things like that. But I think we got our Mega Drive in like 92, 93, and we started to obviously get the games. And I think the first one I remember getting was WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan, which is behind me, and I actually forgot to get out. It's up there somewhere. But the game that sticks out in my mind, and I chatted to my mate Dale about it, who's a big fan of wrestling games, and it's so underrated. Not a lot of people have played this game on the Mega Drive, but it's more the PlayStation and Saturn they played it on. But it's the arcade game, WrestleMania. This is such a great game. Seriously, it's a bit pricey. It's about I honestly think it plays better on the SNES, in all honesty. But and I think there's an extra character on the SNES. As I look down at, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Adam Bomb is the secret character who's on the SNES version. But I absolutely love this game.
Is that the one with all the silly power-ups in it?
That's it. It's like a digitized. It's a bit like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And it's like the Undertaker gets a tombstone out and sort of slanders you with it. Doink the Clown will shake your hand and electrocute you, and things like that.
I'm pulling all sorts of faces here because I don't like that game at all. But that's just me. That's just me.
I used to love this game. I loved it, and it really got me into it because it was in the arcades as well. So you could play on this, and it was really good. The arcade cab, and yeah, living around Portsmouth when I grew up, the arcades down the seafront were just immense. They were so good. And I always remember seeing that game in it. Absolutely brilliant. Love that game. Other notable mentions on the Mega Drive, I think there was Royal Rumble. Was it Royal Rumble or was it just WrestleMania they had? It was Royal Rumble because
they had Super WrestleMania and Royal Rumble. And I think they had Raw was on the 32X as well, I think.
Yeah, there is Raw. That's Raw is War. I've got that as well. That was good, but the go-to game was definitely Super WrestleMania Arcade. I also played a game called Wrestle War, and the Japanese version, or the Japanese version, has got Hulk Hogan, like a cheap Mexican equivalent, Bulk Hogan or something, Wrestle War. It's a very early game. I think it was like the first 6 months the system came out, but they changed the cover quite considerably to a different character, and yeah, I love that game as well. It's not amazing, but it's playable. In the arcades, whilst we're talking about it, things like WrestleFest and stuff like that as well. Oh man,
superstars of wrestling. Yeah,
man, what a game that was! I mean, it was a game. I think the thing I loved about it most is that you could play it multiplayer. So if you went down there with your friends, it wasn't like they'd sit there and watch you. It was like they could actually join in and you could team up. It was cool, and I think that's why I like this game, because you could then come home and play on the multi-tap and play 4-player on this, and it was as he looks at it and hopes it is 4-player. No, 1 to 2 players. We'll edit that out. This isn't live, is it? So that's fine. That's fine. So 2-player we would play on that, and and love that. But then I think some of my next favourite games, we go to the PlayStation, and I mean it's you probably saw them there, but it's the SmackDown games. I mean, these are just. Oh man, these were revolutionary. I mean, back in when this came out, I'd never seen a wrestling game this clear on a Mega Drive. And I had it on the Saturn as well. I had In Your House on the Sega Saturn as well. And this was so clear for a Mega Drive. It was so good. Digitized speech, all that stuff. But the SmackDown games, these were revolutionary. I mean, it's like, these games, I remember coming home, I think I was at my friend's for sleepover, and my younger brother had bought this game. And I was like, oh, I heard a lot about this. You read it in the magazines and stuff. And it was like, you'd never seen anything like it in your life. It was like, you could watch SmackDown and then sort of actually come down and play this game. It was just unbelievable. There was Creation Zone as well. Yeah. I mean,
and it had the opening titles to the TV show in there as well.
Yes,
so you got that started up. And of course, those games were preceded by Warzone and Raw as well, weren't they? I think was it Warzone and
Warzone was the best one. Warzone I never got into. The gameplay on that was the characters looked too flat, you know what I mean? This looked proper sort of 3D. And I think because this is THQ, isn't it? Yeah, THQ. Yeah. And we'll get on to THQ in a minute, because some of my favourite games are, they're legendary. But I mean, I don't know if people know the full story of my channel. I lost both of my brothers, so I've lost my younger brother and my older brother. So gaming memories for me are massive. And like these games, I spent thousands of hours playing these games, literally and it's like I can put these on now and it's so nostalgic just playing them, and that's what I love about retro gaming. It's the touch and the feel and just the look of these boxes. It just screams that I can remember buying this. Like I said, I went to a friend's sleepover and came home and my little brother was playing this, and it's like I can just you're right there, you know what I mean?
We'll come back to that in a minute, mate. We'll do some comments and see what the other lads are going to say. Because I'll try and do it in stages, because obviously we got to a lot of games out at the PlayStation. And there's quite a few on the PS1 and that era to talk about as well. So,
yeah, definitely.
So we'll just go through what... so James mentioned the first game was Rock and Wrestle on the Amstrad CPC. That's going back a few years.
Got the C64.
Yeah, there was Championship Wrestling as well, I think, for Epic's game, which was on the C64 as well. So... Danny says, as Sean's mentioned there, SmackDown 1 and 2 on the PlayStation. First ones were Wrestle War and Super WrestleMania, both on the Mega Drive. I actually played Wrestle War in the arcade.
Oh yeah, I played it in the arcade as well.
Yeah. I used to love that game. It's brilliant. I've got a clean copy as well, really nice condition copy. James says, I like the PC wrestling management game called Promotion Wars, and also wrestling card game With Authority. I did play is it EWR? I think it was like a wrestling management game as well, which is another aspect which we'll probably get into a little bit later, because that's a bit later generation. Steve says as a child he was happy if the wrestlers had entrance music. Yep, so we got that on the Mega Drive for the first time, I think. Steel Case Challenge on the Master System. Rob says WrestleFest in the arcade before playing console games. Dylan hopes to find Woodley in here because we're talking wrestling. I haven't seen him yet anyway, so...
I love Woodley. Love him. Yeah. Love him.
Anyone brought up Rock and Wrestling, Championship Wrestling from the 8-bits, or we just mentioned, as Dylan mentioned there? I'm sure we didn't. Did we not pick up that copy of Championship Wrestling, Dylan, when we were looking at it in Vintage Gamer a few weeks back when he came down? I'm sure we did. There we go. Sean gets really hyped about wrestling games.
You noticed it went louder when I started talking about it as well. Yeah, it did. Yeah.
PS1 wrestling game I've got is In Your House. WrestleFest intro was so good. Yeah, you got the graphics of each wrestler popped up on the screen. Joe remembers Wrestling War on the Mega Drive. Wrestle War. Muscle Bomber Saturday Night Slam Masters was a good one from Capcom. Yeah, I never played that. I played emulation on that one, but
I've never
that
played
was-
Saturday Night Slam Masters. That's really expensive, isn't it?
it's a really expensive game, absolutely. We can get it on emulation, of course. So that's SmackDown intro as well, best wrestling intro. Yep, I completely agree, Rob. I really did like that one. Jimmy says Super WrestleMania on the Mega Drive. Joe says they were brilliant wrestling games on the PlayStation 1. And the SmackDown games on the PlayStation 1s were best for Rob. James says, never liked the SmackDown games. They never did the entrance to the ring. Yeah, there we go. So, some interesting comments from people. Keep them coming, folks, if you want to get involved. Come down to you next, Pete. What about your first experience of wrestling games?
I didn't really have much, to be honest. I remember the first one I got was on the Amiga, and I believe it was just called Tag Team Wrestling. And it was like a budget game, and I might be wrong with that because I've not seen it since when I've been looking for Amiga ROMs and stuff. But essentially, you just you picked like your wrestlers from like a team. They weren't real wrestlers; they were like made up ones. But you pick them from like a list of the pictures of the faces. But when you're actually having the match, it was literally just two guys in green ties and two guys in blue ties.
Yeah,
it looked exactly the same.
I think I played. I think I played that. I think I actually had it, and it wasn't very good. So I just wiped the disc and took it back and said it didn't work.
It wasn't very good, no. But I did play a lot of it. That was the only wrestling game I had, and I think it might have been the only wrestling game I had up until WWF Warzone on the PS1. I had a cousin who was like, because I always liked wrestling, and I had a couple of VHS tapes, but we didn't have Sky. We couldn't. My dad wouldn't buy the pay-per-views, so I never actually saw any of it. So I just watched these videos religiously. But one of my cousins lived and breathed wrestling, and I think he had definitely a WrestleMania arcade game on SNES, and he also had Saturday Night Slam Masters, what Dylan mentioned, which is excellent. It's like again, it's unlicensed again, but it's just sort of like over the top, sort of not cartoonish, but like what you'd expect from a Japanese take on pro wrestling at the time. It's got characters in it. It's got like Hager in it from Final Fight and stuff like that. It's like a proper crossover thing. So technically, it's in the Street Fighter universe too. But, I used to play that whenever I could go around to his house, and it was such a great game. But up until as for actually owning ones, I think the next ones I got were was WWF Warzone and Attitude, and then onto ECW Hardcore Revolution when Acclaim lost the WWF rights. So, and I absolutely loved those three games. I think they did another ECW game after that. I think it was Anarchy Rules, but I never actually played that one. Yeah. But yeah, those three, Warzone, Attitude, and Hardcore Revolution, absolutely loved them. But by that point, I've sort of stopped being into wrestling. I just like those games because they're good games. And because I love the character creation on it. How you can make up your own characters. Obviously it wasn't as in-depth as it is nowadays, but just making my own characters up and pitting them against each other and stuff. I've talked about this kind of thing like this before with on Desert Island Games and stuff. One of the ones I picked was I can't remember if I picked Mugen or if I picked Fire Pro Wrestling Returns, but just for that reason, you could just create characters. I think
you picked the first one. I think you picked the first one. You mentioned, yeah.
But yeah, absolutely love those games. And but at the time, I'd stopped watching wrestling and wasn't into it. And I think my sort of take on wrestling games is the same as my take on actual wrestling. Is in real life, I lost interest in it around sort of the Bret Hart, Yokozuna. Around the time when Yokozuna beat Bret Hart, so Hulk Hogan took his place in WrestleMania. By the time when the Undertaker got killed in a casket match, that was around the time when I lost interest in watching it. And I didn't watch it all the way through the Attitude Era, which everybody said is the best. I've gone back and watched the Attitude Era, and watching it as a newcomer in 2022 it's not good.
No, you had to be there. I think really
you had to be there. No, I fully appreciate that, but I missed out on what is the heyday of wrestling in watching it perspective. Didn't get back into it until 2013. I also missed out on the SmackDown games, which everyone says is the heyday of the gaming like side of wrestling as well. I remember after like playing Hardcore Revolution, I remember getting the demo for WWF SmackDown, the first one, just putting it in and hating it. So I never actually played them, and I didn't play another wrestling game until WWE 13, I think.
Yeah.
So I missed out that whole section. Yeah, I just wasn't.
I will say those 2K games and 13 that you're playing with there. Is that the one with CM Punk on the front? They're in the
13 was still THQ.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they were good games.
They were, yeah. I mean, 2K picked up after 14. I played 13 at a friend's house and I bought 14 on a whim. And 2K14 is the game that brought me back into wrestling, to watching it and everything. It was great. Again, just downloading stupid characters because I didn't know much about wrestling at the time. I was downloading things like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that, and pitting them against each other. And I gradually sort of started playing as the characters that were already on it. Gradually, I realised that at the time they were playing TNA Impact on Challenge TV. So I started watching that, and it just kind of blossomed from there to get me back into wrestling again.
Mm. Okay.
I will say that Acclaim, that ECW game, that Hardcore Revolution, that's an amazing story about that game, because I'm sure you already know, Pete, but that was originally going to be a WWE game, wasn't it? WWF game, but then they lost the license and they already had all the stuff done. And then they approached ECW and said, look, do you want to do a game? Because we've already invested so much in it. And apparently they just piggybacked a lot of the stuff they'd already done with WWF, because then they went.
Well, from a gameplay perspective, it was like virtually the same as WWF Attitude anyway.
Yeah,
it was
the same game. They just put their wrestlers in it. It's an incredible. There's a G4 Icons episode on that, and it's fascinating how they did it. Like it was proper. You wouldn't be able to get away with it nowadays. It was so bad because the WWF had paid for all of the stuff. And then they went, oh, by the way, we're not going with you guys. We're going with these guys. It's like, well, you've already paid us $7 million to build this game, so it's crazy.
Kind of just took the $7 million.
That's Paul Heyman for you, though. The guy's a genius.
Well, nothing to do with the fact that he was being secretly funded by the WWF at the time, but we won't get that. That's another thing. Big Daddy Sean, what about you? What about your wrestling game experiences to start with, and then what we'll do, we'll bring it up to next stage onwards. So, anything up to PlayStation 1 era? Have you played anything, or any recollections? Or
well, I mean, I am a complete wrestling video game virgin. I may have played some on the 8-bits on the Commodore Spectrum, but I can't remember what they were at all. But yeah, to be honest, this podcast is more of an education lesson in these games. I have done the research and I have watched videos on games, wrestling games today, and to be honest, I'm quite surprised. Some of them do look a lot of fun. Some, though, I must admit, the fear that probably has played why I've never really played or got into wrestling games is I've probably looked on them as similar to one-on-one fighters, which is not my cup of tea. But I can see, where there's little differences, obviously the moves and stuff. But I think I did watch a couple of videos and I thought, yeah, it does look a bit too much like a one-on-one fighter. So, but yeah, as for playing wrestling games, like I said, I may have done on the Commodore and Spectrum, but I really can't remember what they were. I do have Rock and Wrestle.
Yeah.
And I do have, I believe it's Popeye 3. I think that's a wrestling game as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a weird game because that was.
I've never.
Because the first two Popeye games, and this is not Popeye the arcade game. These are two separate titles that came out on the 8-bits. Were completely just based around the Popeye franchise, and for some reason, the third one was Intergalactic Wrestling or something like that, or it's completely random. Completely
the
random.
third one was Days Before Christmas. He was proper. He would just do everything, that man.
But you're right, so it's a completely bizarre entry, that one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I can't remember playing that Epix game that you'd mentioned. I can't even remember a cover of it, to be honest. So, yeah. Okay. I mean, Dylan's mentioned a comment here in the chat, which is quite
convenience we sort of come into this bit. So when was the golden era of wrestling games? I heard the N64 had a stack of them for the hardcore wrestling fan.
Yeah,
Now
WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy. Absolutely
No
brilliant
Mercy.
games.
Hold me back, guys. Hold me back. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go on this.
Ready to go. But this is where we're at now. Probably up until that point in time. I mean, Sean mentioned the SmackDown games on the first go round, and we'd had the WWF Attitude and Warzone game before that, which were sort of getting to somewhere where we wanted to be. But apart from really the arcade, I know there's a stack of games that came out on the handhelds as well. There were some Superstars games that came out. There were the NES games, the Mega Drive games, Super Nintendo games. My personal opinion with them was I was very excited about them. When you played them, I always felt they were a little bit lacking. I remember playing Super WrestleMania for the first time, thinking, yeah, it's all right, but it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. And it wasn't really until we got to this era where you mentioned SmackDown, where we got those WWF games. We then got these N64 WCW titles as well, which came out. We also had some WCW titles on the PlayStation 1. And I'm not thinking primarily of Nitro and Thunder because they were terrible. But WCW versus the World, which I actually had at one point, was a completely different game and really, really well done. And then, of course, we then move into the SmackDown era. So what have you got on your pile next, Sean, that you want to show us off from this era?
You've mentioned N64, but I've got to do PlayStation 2 first because that's technically how I did it. So
okay.
Anyway, I'll do the. Well, this one game signifies the whole PlayStation 2 thing for me. But when I got my first job working at Alders of Portsmouth on the toy department, the best job I've ever had, by the way. And my little brother used to get discounted wrestling figures, so I was like, the coolest brother. But anyway, I saved for my first ever games console when I started that job, and to make sure that I saved for it and actually bought the console, I bought this during one of my lunch breaks before I even owned the console, and that's Just Bring It. Man, this was a stage up on the SmackDown games for the stage up on the PlayStation 1 games. This is such an amazing game. Not just because of the game, but also I loved it because William Regal was in it, and obviously at the time he was like the only British wrestler.
Show us that again, back again, Sean. Sorry, just show.
So you got William Regal right there. He's sort of like the Commissioner Regal in this game, but and also Chris Jericho and sort of The Rock and people like that. And the entrances were so cool. And I think Limp Bizkit were on this, if I remember. I was big into Limp Bizkit at the time. Limping with a biscuit. I was limping with a biscuit, as we said back then. So anyway,
you could have won Fred Durst, couldn't you?
A totally shaved head, massive cat. No, I wasn't. But this was such an amazing game, and the entrances on this were really good. The Creating Superstar was amazing, but all of the games. I mean, I've done the Royal Rumble and the SummerSlam pay-per-views, my friends, on because they're still really good to play. And there's cheats for them, which means you can make all your Creative Superstars like 99 straight away. So it's really easy to play. But yeah, I mean, I've got a whole stack. This basically signifies, because my PlayStation 2 stuff over there, I've literally got a whole row of PlayStation SmackDown games. And this just holds so many memories for me, because when I bought this, it was like I have to now buy a PlayStation 2 to play this game. But yeah, I mean, revolutionary. THQ as well. I mean, what a great job they did with wrestling franchises back in the day. And yeah, I mean, it's. Did you want to stop there for PlayStation 2, or did you want me to go on to N64?
Well, so God, if you've got the N64 stuff there, I just mentioned it, and a couple of people mentioned N64 games. Chap Pete mentioned a couple as well, so we can do those.
Yeah, that's fine. So, I mean, the golden era of wrestling games for me, and Sean, other Sean, if you're going to start anywhere, if you can get emulators for these games, I mean, they are just immense, these games. I'll go through them. N64 here doesn't really give anything away, but we'll get to that. These games are just the best wrestling games. And I'm not being I'm a Sega collector. Look at the stuff behind me. Pretty much everything's Sega. But I've got so much love for the N64 and its wrestling games, and I'll just go through them sort of one by one and sort of say why. But you've got like the first game I remember playing, and I'll name drop one of my friends again. And that was my friend Dan Voss, who I've tried to get back in contact with, but I can't find anywhere. So if anyone finds someone called Dan Voss, let me know. This game here, I played it on a sleepover around his house. Man, this game was so good. It was polygons. It wasn't like flat. It wasn't the 3D, but like it gave a different dimension to the characters, and they were so cool. The moves you could pull off, the tag teams, it was everything, and it was basically, if I was ever going to go to another console type, because I was very PlayStation and Mega Drive, Sega and orientated. If I was ever going to buy a Nintendo, it had to be a game that hooked me in. And the first Christmas that I could have asked for an N64, I asked for an N64. I didn't get one, but I had to buy one down the line. But this hooked me in this game, and then you got the next one that came up.
So
Revenge.
So the first one we showed was World Tour, wasn't it?
World Tour, that's the first one.
And then Revenge.
And then Revenge, where Goldberg sort of comes in, and Raven, such a cool character. I used to love Raven. And again, the gameplay on this is just, again, it's polygon driven, and it's just a lot crisper than this. It's like World Tour, Revenge is a lot crisper. Everything's more rounded. There's a bigger roster on it. The creative thing, I think on this, if you wanted to create a wrestler, you had to oversave one of the people on the game. You could only edit. But on this, I believe they brought in a proper editor, and this was amazing. But in my opinion, I'm going to say the best for the last. And as soon as I show this one, you'll know exactly what it is. But I think Jimmy Retro, I did read in the comments.
So James agrees the intros on those WCW games were class, and they said Jimmy Retro mentions that one you're just about to show now, which is that
That's
one.
It. Amazing game. On this one as well, it's great because my original had the card on the back that changes. I managed to get without knowing it when I bought this. It came with the card. So, but anyway, really, really good game. Solid game. Big roster. Great creation again. Copies a lot of the game mechanics from the THQ games for WCW. Absolutely solid game. Really good. I think these are about 20 quid a pop if you want them. On eBay, they're all selling. But the number one game for me personally, and I put hours into this game, and Time Warp James recently spoke about it. I think it was in one of his, it might have been a recent video, but I watched a lot of his stuff back recently. And this game, I think we would have had a cracking game back in the day, and that is No Mercy, because I used to be able to play with my brothers on this game, and the matches would last forever because everyone would reverse moves. You just couldn't get 2 punches in a row without someone reversing it. And it came down to the fact that if you were in... the only fair way we could play was we used to play tag team matches, one controlling a character from each tag team, and we just used to beat on the computer person. And it would be the first person to pin the computer, because it became so annoying actually playing a human, because you just reverse everything. But it was such a quality game, and I say quality because this game had all of the beautiful mechanics from the other one on the N64 games, but this one also, it sounds stupid, but it also had the actual game itself, the actual crowd around you were interactive, the entrances were good again, and I think everything worked for me on the N64 wrestling game-wise, worked to this game, and I absolutely love this generation of games. This, by far, WrestleMania as well, the WCW games are literally 98%. This is like 100% for me. Everything was right, and like I said, it made me get an N64, not for Mario 64, it was for the wrestling games.
But those people who played them at the time, have fond memories of them, and there's always been this belief that if anybody could sort of capture that No Mercy gaming engine again and produce a game, they'd be a lot better than what they've done over the last number of years.
Definitely.
I mean,
just to check that the AEW game that's coming out is apparently made by the guys who made No Mercy in WrestleMania 2000,
and it holds a lot of the DNA from this. They've said that it's But I will say I'll sort of plug a channel that I watch. You guys might watch it as well if you're into wrestling, but I watch a YouTube show called Cultaholic, and they're lads from Newcastle. They do like podcasts, they do reviews, everything, and I agree so much with the guys from Cultaholic. This game, every time a new WWE game comes out, they always reference this game as the benchmark. And it's like, this game is like, what year was this released? 2000. This is 22 years old, and people are still coming back to it, you know. And I will say, people say you go back playing N64, it's rubbish quality and stuff. Yeah, it is, but it's also us as retro gamers. It's all up here. It's the memories. You play the memories as well as the game. You don't just play it now. You're not playing. If you put this against 2K22 or 23, whatever they're on, this is going to get rinsed. But if you're a retro gamer and you play these games, it's the memories, it's the roster at the time. It's the fact that you could play as Kurt Angle in his prime. You know, you could play as the Hardys throwing people off ladders. You know, it just that you can't do that nowadays, and it's just.
You're right.
You know,
you're right.
We all did that as kids around the play park. You know, you'd all literally just. Oh God, the amount of times I got called up in school. Anyway, but yeah, put the chair down, Sean. But anyway, me and my friends actually had a hardcore belt that we would actually play over lunchtimes, and that went round the school. And I actually got put onto what they called pink slip in school, which is basically behavioural monitoring for instigation. So,
dear. It's all coming out now, isn't it, mate? It's all coming out.
That's the squeaky clean, Pompey Games Room Sean architect fellow is, he's hung himself tonight.
All right, we'll come back to you again in a minute, mate. Joe remembers playing a game called Backyard Wrestling on the PlayStation 2. Yeah, I remember that as well. That was wasn't a good one, that one. We mentioned the intros on those WCW games were class. James also says played the intro on No Mercy more than the game itself with the speakers pumped up. Eddie Flair's arrived. Evening, Eddie. Hope you're all right. Rob says put it up against 2K20 and it will definitely win. And if you get mods on No... Sorry, Pete?
The 2K20 was a garbage fire.
It was, wasn't it? We'll talk about that shortly. About how bad they've got. If you get mods on No Mercy, there was an unreleased WCW game which you should try, Sean. Apparently, so
okay,
there we go.
Someone said about the holograms on the back of WrestleMania 2020. There,
that was James. Let me just bring that up on the big screen, Sean, so we can all see.
So it's basically a standard case on the back, but then it came with this little slide-in thing, and it's the same. It's like the screenshots. I love these cards. They're so nostalgic. So it's basically those. But that I had this when I got it in the store. I think I got this from Virgin Megastore when I originally bought it. And it came with that. And unknowingly, I don't know if the most of them came with it. But yeah, I either got very lucky or
It's what you call a Brucey bonus. That's what you don't quite expect it, and you end up it turns up.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
That's it. Pete, did you play any of those that era sort of? I know you said you were out of the game, but have you played any of those games since that Sean was on about from the N64 and PlayStation 1 era?
A mate of mine did have WrestleMania 2000. I did play a fair bit of that. He never got No Mercy, but we played tons of WrestleMania 2000. I'd forgotten about the WCW games as well, because I had an absolute ton of those on the PS1. Like WCW Thunder. Nitro as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were terrible.
I really liked them. They were more sort of like fast paced. They weren't really wrestling games. They were more like just straight on fighting games. But match lasted about a minute and a half.
But the problem with that was if you pressed, I think it was the select button, somebody would run in all the time on your behalf. So you could literally complete the game in one sitting just by getting someone to run in all the time. The only thing I liked about Nitro was the commentary. It was really, really good, and the fact you got a proper intro as well. We mentioned the intros on the other game. The intro on Nitro was really good. It was like a TV show, but the rest of the game I thought it was shocking, absolutely shocking.
I used to like the ridiculous unlockable characters you could get though, like farm animals and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's a hell of a lot of crap on that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you could get there was hundreds of unlockables, and it was like. Just like cows and sheep, and then there'd be like a dragon or something. There'd be like an old timey, like can dancing girl and stuff like that.
Yeah. I know. Was Godzilla not in it? I know it was a dragon. Was it not Godzilla or something like that? I can't remember.
It might be.
It was just utterly bizarre.
As I was like sort of not into wrestling at that point, just that kind of stupidity kind of really appealed to me, and the fact that I used to get bored halfway through matches on like playing some other wrestling games, so. The fact that you could just hammer away at each other for a minute and then win really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Mayhem was a good one as well. WCW Mayhem.
Yeah, Mayhem. I did Mayhem, yeah.
Because that was an Electronic Arts game, which is really strange because you don't usually associate them with that. But I bought that when it came out, and I was actually quite impressed by how good that was.
Yeah,
and I think
I agree with you there.
A lot of people don't talk about that one as much.
I will say, hearing about Godzilla in a wrestling ring reminds me about the Attitude Era, where Kane used to tombstone Pete Rose all the time.
Rose,
he was
baseball.
he was dressed as a chicken.
Yes.
And stuff. That was. I used to love that sort of stuff. So classic. So.
Before we go around again, Big Daddy Sean, did you play any of these games from this era at all, or have you gone back and had a look at them and conjured an opinion up or not?
Actually, I think if I were going to start with a wrestling game, I think I'd go with that one that Joe Gaming Girly mentioned, backyard wrestling.
Oh yeah, backyard wrestling. That's the one. Yeah,
I have seen that. I did see a video on that. It does look a lot of fun. It's got me my favourite characters in there, the Insane Clown Posse. So that's a bonus.
I'd never thought you say that. I'd never thought that you would say that. Someone that
doesn't watch wrestling, like the Insane Clown Posse, they're my guys. Yeah, they're my guys. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, no, definitely.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Like an Insane Clown Posse?
Yeah.
I tell you what it was. I used to listen to the Wu-Tang Clan, and I remember LimeWire, and I was downloading some songs, and they did a song together with Old Dirty Bastard, Bitches. That's the song. It's called Bitches. I know, but at the time,
this is just great.
Know who it was.
This is great coming out with a thick Yorkshire accent. It's just amazing.
I'd never thought I'd hear these words ever from Sean. It's great. It really is.
You should tweet this episode to the Insane Clown Posse, because I don't think they've got a #1 fan. You could get that badge on their Facebook.
I want to start a hip hop podcast with Sean.
He's got the headphones for it. He'll be all right.
Dressed as the Insane Clown Posse. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that'll be good.
I mean, I see here shy. I'm not going to lie, but Homies was a good track, but the rest of their stuff's awful.
Oh no!
I would Patreon that.
Brilliant. I nearly got to see him at Leeds. Only a few years ago, and. Apparently, I don't think it was the Insane Clown Posse that did, but all the academies cancelled on them just a few days before they were due to play. I was devastated, and we got the tickets. And it never materialised. They did play some gigs over there, but just not the academies. I think the academies were frightened of them smashing the place up or something. But yeah, back to the wrestling game. Yeah, I'd like to play that one first. I've got a question more than not for you guys. Would you say that as the progress to like PlayStation and the next generation of consoles from like the 16-bit, do they get more realistic? Because the 16-bit and 8 look really fast and a bit. A bit too much, if I'm honest. Do they slow down, become a bit more realistic with it?
Well, I mean, from my opinion, if you think back to the really early one we talked about to start with, they look quite cartoony, the games, but that was because it was quite cartoony at the time. That the action was quite cartoony. It was larger than life characters and gimmicks and things, and there was always that sort of cartoon feeling to it. So as the product developed over time, as we got towards the end of the 90s, where we are roughly about now, the product couldn't be like what it was before. People have got beyond this good versus bad thing, and all the gimmicks, and they wanted more realism in the product. So, in a way, the games did become more real to change with the product, and that's a great question. Do you chaps agree with me on the right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think now also the variety of match types that there are in games, they've had to sort of You know, like I think the revolutionary thing in the PlayStation ones, like PlayStation 1, 2, you could have the hardcore matches where you could like play in the arena backstage and use weapons and stuff. Like nowadays, like they've got like elimination chambers and buried alive matches, and it's just, you know, I love the buried alive match routine because it's like, you know, poor Yokozuna. We were talking about that earlier. He got hustled with Hogan and Bret Hart in one of the worst WrestleMania matches when Hogan came out and won it. And then he buried The Undertaker, and then he rose again. It's like, God, this guy's a complete farce. Anyway.
Not to mention the fact that he wasn't even Japanese.
His name's Rodney, wasn't it, or something?
He was one of the Anoa'i family, wasn't he? He was one of
that's it.
Every Polynesian wrestler is pretty much the same family apart from Samoa Joe. So
also, Sean, I'm weird question. I want to see you pull your arm sleeves up because I've got a feeling you're going to have the insane clown posse tattoo here and a Gunk the Clown here. I've just got a feeling that there's going to be like lots of clown tattoos.
That's only to disappoint, mate. No.
And when you flex, he gets bigger. You know, he just like he becomes bigger. So,
dear,
you've disappointed me, Sean. I'll be honest.
Sorry,
I lined
mate.
you up there. Backstage, you were all over those tattoos. Now you won't show anyone. Unbelievable. I do agree, though. The games, I think they've got more realistic, and also I will say the fact that you can create things as well, so you can add things in yourself now. You know, so like a new wrestler turns up, someone out there will create that wrestler and put it in the game, and it's like. Yeah, I haven't played many of the games. We mentioned WWE 2K14. I would say is probably one of the strongest, most recent games from memory. And I only say that because the next event we're doing, Royal Rumble, I was intending to use that game. I unlocked everything, got all the wrestlers unlocked, and then my PlayStation reformatted and I lost everything. I was like, no! So we've now switched to 2009, so I'm not going there again. But anyway, it is a fantastic game, and I loved it that much that even when it wiped, I started replaying it to unlock everything again, and I loved it. I loved the stuff. Like the roster on that game is like you got Macho Man, you got Steamboat, you got Hart, classic Undertaker, and about 5 different guises. You know, you've got some classic moments, WrestleMania moments, I think they call them. And yes, such a great game, 2K14. And then 2K20 is where it just can't crash. So
I've bought every year's game since 14. And 15 was a massive drop as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Is it 17? Is Stone Cold the Stone Cold one?
18, I think that was.
18. That's brilliant. That's probably one of my favourites. Definitely. I love that
15 was absolutely toilet because it was the first one on the PS4 and the Xbox One, and I think there was just so much of a sort of a struggle to make the leap. If I remember rightly, the 15 one that they brought out on the PS3 and the 360 were still really good games, but the next generation ones were awful. You know, there was stuff like you could only download as opposed to downloading 100 characters in the last one, you could only download 20 and 50.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, couldn't download female characters.
That's it.
But 16, 17, and 18 were really strong. 19 was a little bit lackluster, and then 20 was the.
20 was so bad that they skipped 21. It was that bad.
It's hardly their fault. It's hardly their fault, really, because people blame 2K because all 2K did was publish it. Ukes, the people developing the game, just left halfway through the game and left a completely
it was unplayable, really.
Inexperienced. Yeah, they left an inexperienced team to finish it off, and it ended up being really unplayable. But they did have 2 years to bring out 2K22, and that was unplayable at first as well.
The Insane Clown Posse on 2020 are really good, by the way. Really good.
You can download it, obviously.
Love it.
Yeah, 2K22 now it's been patched up. It's still buggy. I mean, wrestling games are, but it is really good. It's like my favorite one for a long time, and I've said because I don't keep up to date with wrestling anymore. I think I'm probably just not going to buy it anymore and just keep playing this one because the the mode I play on it is Universe mode, where essentially you're essentially just running like your own channel. Essentially, you're like putting different shows on every night. You know, messing around with rosters and stuff. It's like a management mode, but you don't have to worry about money or anything like that. You can just do whatever you want. It's just a sandbox. And I just like to essentially just see how things play out. It's like I do it. I've only done one so far. But I'm going to do another one soon, an Instagram post, just basically saying like who's my current champions and things like that. Because it's the sort of thing that I find really interesting.
Yeah, I love that sort of stuff. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that'll just keep me going for ages. It's like when I said 2K15 was awful. I carried on. Then I moved back to 2K14 and played that for another year until 16 came out. So I got through like two years on a solid play of 2K14. It was that good. Sean's gonna have to pay.
Can you change his name, Russ, when he's away? I think you can, can't you? As administrator.
I might be able to.
In Sean,
I can do. Yeah.
Oh, this sort of tomfoolery. Oh.
Just see if he notices. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Brilliant.
We'll see what happens. There we go. Right. So we've then got the PlayStation 2 slate games, haven't we? The SmackDown series. So I don't draw attention to it. There we go. We got the SmackDown games, and then we got into the SmackDown versus Raw series. A lot of people do talk fondly about those PlayStation 2 games, particularly Here Comes a Pain, Shut Your Mouth. You want to show the
Oh, you got it.
Damn.
Oh,
He's noticed.
love it. Right, who had 30 seconds, guys?
Yeah, there we go. We thought you got to paint your face because I put the note down there to say he's just got it done. So, incidentally, if you're listening to this, you won't have any idea what's happened there. I've changed Sean's name to reference his secret Insane Clown Posse.
But Sean has come back in all events fully painted. So
yeah.
You can't see him.
Yeah.
It's got his axe.
It's.
Oh dear.
That's good.
Yeah, trying to get back on topic there, but that was good. So, what were your thoughts and opinions on those games, Sean, when they came out, and how the series sort of morphed into SmackDown versus Raw, and then on to where we are now?
Yeah, I mean, the SmackDown versus Raw series I thought was really good because again, it was a yearly. It's a bit like if you like the FIFAs, the updated rosters and stuff. I would say it's probably around a bit like Pete, really. So I came back in at 2K14. I really got back into it when they brought out the Stone Cold Steve Austin 2K game, and that was just incredible. I got the pre-order on that and everything. I think it came it's up in the loft somewhere, but it came like a shirt and stuff like that. Yeah, really, really cool. I mean, I sort of, between going to the PlayStation 3 games where they became 2K and the SmackDown vs. Raw, I was really, really into the GameCube and Day of Reckoning series. Again,
yes, yeah.
Really good games. This is Day of Reckoning 2. I got Day of Reckoning 1. But on this, I can't remember if it's this one or the first one where there's like a platform that you can select a wrestler and basically just walk through a level and beat up loads of bad guys. It's a bit like Streets of Rage. But I think I seem to recall it might be the first one because it is really good. I think you only get one life though. So when you die, you just have to start again and you get like a special move and stuff like that. But yeah, again, this was a really, really immersive game, really good. The creations on it were good. And for the GameCube as well, I think this was a really, really strong offering because this would have been up against, like SmackDown versus Raw and stuff like that. 2004, so this would have been up against SmackDown and things like that. So yeah, a big shout out to these games. And these you can pick up for like a tenner. So if you've got a GameCube, the Day of Reckoning games are awesome. Brilliant, brilliant games. And I think someone in the comments might say, but I think there was an unreleased version of this. There was a number 3 that was going to come, but I don't think it materialised. But someone did.
Because there were a couple of specific ones. Because the GameCube also got WrestleMania 18 and 19, didn't it?
Yeah.
And the Xbox got Raw and Raw 2, and also got WrestleMania 21, I think. Let me see quickly. It was bringing up on those on there. Sure, there we go.
So you got that's fine. So you got these other 3. That's the first version of Day of Reckoning. I think that might actually be the one with the sort of platforming stage. But actually, I forgot. This is actually a really strong game as well. Really, really good.
Never
really
played
playable.
that one. Never played.
Yeah,
that
this is pretty good. This one, I'd say I think you could create your own special move on this one and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty good gameplay. Graphics on that are pretty impressive actually for the GameCube. And then I think this was one of the release games. Someone might want to say, yeah, really decent, brilliant. But at the time, I think the SmackDown games were just a bit better than this. You can pick this up for like £3 or £4.
Yeah, that one is dirt cheap to pick up.
Yeah.
Rob's just mentioned here there's the side-scrolling beat-em-up Game Boy Color game. Was that Betrayal? I have a feeling it might be WWF Betrayal or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was. I seem to recall that I played it somewhere along the line. I always thought it was one of the Day of Reckonings. I probably wrong. I mean, I sort of maybe I'll just have to replay them again. I haven't played like my go-to games are actually the N64 versions. I know those inside out, but I know I played that sort of platforming stage. So maybe I'll look into that. Yeah,
it was Betrayal. So I think I know some sort of like plot line to it where you had to go and rescue Stephanie McMahon from the clutches of the Undertaker or something like that.
The Insane Clown Posse, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo-ha-ha-ha. Yeah, I know. I would actually look at that actually because I really like that, and I always thought it was on those games, but obviously not. So, but yeah, I think that was my sort of go-between the PlayStation 3 and the sort of PlayStation 2 games. And then obviously you get into PlayStation 3 where you get all the yearly releases and you also
have things like you have like the Legends of WrestleMania game. You got All Stars as well, which is a cracking game.
Wrestling All Stars, is that the cartoony Hulk Hogan on the front? And yeah, that is really good. I got that for Christmas one year, and I have got it somewhere, but I haven't pulled the actual game off the shelf. It's really, really, really addictive as well. I seem to remember, didn't that come out on the Wii? Because I seem to remember I had it on the Wii.
Well, funny you should mention that. That inflicted my bald spot on everybody, but there
you go. That's I remember having it on the Wii. That's it. Yeah. It's a really good game.
It is a cracking game. That absolutely belted.
And again, it costs practically nothing. You can pick that game up for under £5 delivered.
And it's one of the best games I played. One of the best wrestling games I played. It's actually more like Mortal Kombat or a fighter rather than an actual wrestling game.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a really good shout.
They tried to replicate that a couple of years ago with the I can't remember what it was called. One of the 2K ones between 20 and 22. And it was awful.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I think I know the
so
one.
So bad I can't remember what it's called. 1 second.
Okay.
I'm trying. It's on the tip of my tongue. That
Battlegrounds.
That's it.
Battlegrounds. That's it.
Yeah.
They
tried to sort of do that kind of formula again, and it was just terrible. It was awful.
The Hooded Gamer says the Rumble Roses games are the only wrestling games that matter. Yeah, I've played Rumble Roses on PlayStation 2. It wasn't too bad. It's not great.
They were developed by the same people who did the SmackDown games. So.
That's right. I don't know if I can reach my copy. No, I can't. That's too far away. Right, no. But yeah, I've got that one. I think it's a 360 version of that as well, Rumble Roses, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Rumble Roses XX, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one I've got.
Yeah,
I mean, a friend has it. I remembered one actually when it just disappeared a minute ago that it's going back to the PS1 times, but it's one that I did play a fair bit of. That is Power Move Pro Wrestling. And it's I don't know why I've played a lot of this game because it was awful, but it was like a completely unlicensed, just a terrible where's my camera? There it is.
Yeah, I can testify to that as well, Pete, because I picked that game off of Big Game Al recently when he was selling. Well, he's selling everything, isn't he?
Yes, he's got nothing left. He's literally sitting on a box at the moment. That's he's gone.
A box. But I bought it off of him, and I'll be honest, the actual screenshots on the back make it look a lot better than it actually was when I played it.
It's it had a couple of Japanese wrestlers from the time in it, but most of the characters were just completely made up for the game. I remember playing as a guy called Agent Orange, just constantly. I don't know why that stuck in my head, but I did play a lot of that game, and I was always playing as Agent Orange. I don't know why. I didn't even know what it meant at the time. But it was
up against his arch nemesis, Vitamin C.
Vitamin C sounds like a guy in the ICP, so
Yes.
Yeah, Vitamin C's, he's always working out. I love it. Just like constantly. Yeah.
Jimmy
love
asked a
that.
question. I've been out of the loop for a while. Why is Big Game Al selling his collection?
He's
Well, he
collecting
just-
gins.
yeah, he's to spend money on other stuff. He's had a bit of a epiphany and wants to do something a bit different. So he wants to get as many EverDrives as he can do and keep some physical games, not selling them all, but most of the stuff that he's moving on now. So if you're after a bargain, go somewhere else because his prices are terrible. I'm joking.
I did see someone put a comment. I think it was on Facebook because he goes on a lot of day trips now. I love Al, and this isn't anything.
So do
against
I.
Al,
So
but
do I. Yeah, but
someone
this is
put a
your
comment
jest.
on saying, "Is this why you're selling all your full sets?" Because he's always at a different stately home, different restaurant, different. And I thought, I read that comment and I just laughed. I thought that's brilliant. So, but, yeah, you got to love Al. He's a proper gem in the community, isn't he?
He certainly
lovely
is.
guy. Yeah, love Al.
Rob mentioned the TNA games as well. I've got Impact
That
somewhere
one-
on the Wii.
There's one with Kurt Angle on the front, isn't there? And he's sort of
That
going
is the
like
one.
that.
there is only one.
Yeah.
There is only the one
TNA
game.
Impact. It's on the PS2 and the PS3. It might be on the Wii as well, actually. Yeah, but
I can honestly say I've never played it.
I've got it on the PS2 and PS3, and I've played it on the PS3, and it is very bad.
It is on the Wii, and I've got it.
It's got a really good roster there.
Yeah. I'm also going to mention very, very quickly. We mentioned SmackDown versus Raw games. If you ever played these on the Wii, they are actually quite different to play, but I quite enjoyed it. It was not what I expected. So on a system like that where you're using motion controls, I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but it's a different experience. It's like when you talk about playing Madden and Pro Evolution and FIFA on the Wii. They're all different to playing them on the other console. So I'm not saying they're all fantastic games, but I would, I've tried one before, and these are dirt cheap to pick up as well.
Yeah.
Worth having a look at if you've got a Wii and just having a play around on that, really.
I'd say actually that's a really solid one on the PlayStation 3 as well. It is really cheap on the place. It's usually in the bundle when you buy a bundle for PlayStation 3. It's a really good game, really good, solid. ECW as well on there.
Just want to jump in here. James has just commented saying Def Jam was quite a good game. Def Jam 5 for NY on the GameCube and PS2. Absolutely amazing game. I completely forgot about it because for some reason my mind doesn't register as a wrestling game, but it totally is. Essentially, the wrestling games, sort of street wrestling games, but they're like the characters are completely made up of rappers, essentially. So Sean, you might like it because now we know you're a big hip-hop fan. It was like rappers either as themselves or playing characters. Like I think the last boss on Fight for NY was called Crow, and he was played by Snoop Dogg. Things like that. There was like Snoop Dogg. There was like Redman. I think Method Man was in it as well. DMX. Just all sorts of sort of like late 90s, early 2000 rappers all just getting together and fighting, and like it was sort of really brutal. Like you could slam people's heads in car doors and stuff like that. Such good fun. I never played the first one, and Def Jam Icon that came out on the 360 was nowhere near as good. But Def Jam Fight for NY is a game that I would recommend to anybody. If anybody who's obviously got some kind of like background in appreciation of hip hop or appreciation of wrestlers or just fighting games. If you haven't played it, do have a go because it's so good. I played it on the GameCube, so I would always go back to that version. I do have it on both and the PSP now, but I would always go back to the GameCube version. It just seemed really suited to the controller.
I've always sat on the fence with that, so I am going to give that a go. I've always sat on the fence with Def Jam, even to the fact that I picked it up in bundles and just moved it on. I've never played it, and I think it's something.
It has a really sort of in-depth story mode. If you sort of picture like the story modes from like the current Mortal Kombat games and the Injustice games, where it's like matches and cutscenes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
there's like a really good story mode in that game, sort of based around the same thing. But you can also do things to raise your stats and things like that. A little bit of RPG in there. It's I'm going to play it again. I swear to God, I'm going to dust it off and play it again next time I'm in here. It's such a good game, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think I might have to seek that out definitely.
James brings up another series of games we completely glossed over at the moment, and we probably all gloss over quite a few, so we haven't mentioned any. Don't worry, that's just the nature of the beast. We just talk about what comes up. The Legends of Wrestling games.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people don't like them. I don't mind them. I thought they were okay, but I know a lot of people don't particularly enjoy them.
I think the Legends of Wrestling, I always remember, was quite important because I think it was after Owen Hart died, Bret Hart didn't do a lot of games in association with WWE. And I think that was the first game that he was actually appeared on with WWE wrestlers or WWF wrestlers. That sounds really geeky, but anyway, I do love his next comment, by the way. It's much more because people hate the Simpsons wrestling, but I actually find it really funny that Groundskeeper Willie, some of the sayings he comes out with during that game.
But it's two things that don't go together. The Simpsons and wrestling do not go together.
It's so bad, but it's a bit like South Park Rally. I love South Park Rally, and a lot of people that are Mario Karts. And Mario Kart is, but if you like South Park, and it's like, things like that, you would love that. And I'm not saying like if you're a Simpsons fan, you've got to love it, but I don't know. It's just certain things stuck with me. Like I always think of Groundskeeper Willie, some of the stuff he said, and Ralph as well comes out with some corkers like in matches. It is the playability is rubbish. But
it reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where Homer gets his tin of beer and nuts and gum together for the first time. And you're thinking, why would you put those two together? And I think exactly the same about Simpsons and wrestling. Why would you put those two together? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
It doesn't have to.
Just going to bring this up with James very, very quickly, and then I want to go around everybody before we finish. Who played that Hulk Hogan's main event on Kinect? I've only ever seen one copy of that physically, and it was in such a shocking state I didn't dare buy it. Anybody played that one at all?
I've not played. I've never even heard of it. Yeah.
No, it's not meant to be very good. I've heard of it, but like I said, I've only ever seen one physical copy of it. So there we go. Big Daddy Sean or Insane Clown Sean at the bottom.
Fair play to you. You haven't changed it.
No, he's left it. I don't need to change it back anyway when he wasn't looking. What about any other wrestling games that you've had a look at and sort of caught your eye at all?
Yeah, I really just glossed over stuff for the wrestling games on newer generation just to see what they were like. And I asked you about realism earlier. I know graphically, obviously, the more realistic, or actually meant more like the gameplay. Is it more realistic? But yeah, obviously you see that the graphics, they look just realistic, completely realistic. It's just like watching a video. I must admit, I'm quite impressed. It's like I say, it's something that it's a genre I've never got into purely, I think, because I've looked on it as similar to one-on-one fighters, and maybe there's a bit more to them than that. But yeah, it's something I ought to look into. And, playing these Nintendo games, what do you recommend as a wrestling game? Maybe I should give that a go. Sean, any ideas?
Well, Nintendo games, what sort of generation are you thinking of playing?
NES or SNES? So
SNES, I would say, well, one to try out for sure is definitely the arcade game. That's pretty good. That's pretty decent. That's on pretty much every system. That's really good. Plays a lot like Ross said. It plays a lot like Mortal Kombat or anything like that. I think that's probably the strongest game. SNES also, I would say Royal Rumble plays really well. That's a decent game on the SNES.
I would recommend Tecmo World Wrestling on the NES as well.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen gameplay for that. It's good.
Yeah, it's not bad though on that one. And again, it's quite cheap to pick up. That again, probably £5-6 quid, something like that. So it's well worth getting hold of. Right, so as we're getting close to time, wrestling games over the years, people I think people have the perception that they're very much like the Madden and the Tiger Woods and the FIFAs. Every year we get an edition or a new one come out. But like those games, you buy them because of the rosters. The rosters come out, and you have the facility to create a wrestler, but you've got different game modes. I know Sean mentioned a few early, like the Elimination Chamber, and you got all the classic standard matches, all the weird gimmick matches that you've got in there now. So, and they're always readily available. They're always dirt cheap to pick up. You can pick up old versions of the SmackDown versus Raw series for very, very little, and the WWE 2K ones hold their value a little bit, but you can still pick them up readily available. So, again, I think that's probably an unfair assessment. I think there are good, there are some good games. There are some bad ones there as well. We mentioned WWE 2K20, which was released pretty much unfinished, and even when it was patched about 1,000 times afterwards, still wasn't anywhere near it was. And I think, as you said earlier, Sean, it was that bad they didn't even bother doing a 2K21 version. They were just trying to wait on it. What have you got there, Pete?
I've got something that's really going to piss you off.
Oh, okay. That's
saying that you can't understand why Simpsons and wrestling goes together.
Oh no!
Well, here I've got here's my little John Cena Leonardo.
I saw those a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Donatello was the Undertaker.
Oh my God!
Macho Man Michelangelo.
Oh, that's brilliant! I love that one.
And Raphael as Sting.
Oh, right. There's some thought gone into there, isn't it? Yeah. Just again, for those of you just listening to this, Pete's showing us some turtle figures with based on wrestler characters, which yeah.
And I'll tell you what, for those listening and not watching, Sean, very Sting-esque with the face paint. Very Sting-esque. The detail we managed to get there, popping off screen for 45 seconds was insane.
They're all going to run over now, and I would switch over and have a look at it as well. Rob said they also did Ghostbuster versions as well, by the looks of it.
Yeah, I remember the Ghostbuster. I saw those in Forbidden Planet, actually, when I was up there about a month and a half ago. They're still selling them as classics.
They did a second wave of these as well, which I really wish I'd got, because there was one of them was Roddy Piper, one of them was Finn Balor. There was an Ultimate Warrior. I think The Rock was the other one. Yeah, Raphael was The Rock. So I really wish I'd picked those up too, but I just never got around to it. And they're like rocking our shit now. They're just, you can't get it.
Quick question from Gavin before I ask my final question. Is anyone going to get the AEW game when it comes out?
I've got it pre-ordered.
Oh, right.
I've got it. Yeah.
There's also like an independent wrestling game coming out, which has got people like Muhammad Hassan and stuff in it as well, who you'd never hear from anymore.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Weird.
I cannot remember what it's called at all, but it's sort of it's more indie developed to me. So it's all based on indie wrestlers as well, which I'll also be getting, even though it's probably going to be terrible.
Wasn't that a Kickstarter? Because I seem to remember seeing about 3 or 4 years ago, it was during COVID, because a lot of the indie wrestlers, they sold their likeness to a developer or something. I seem to remember reading that on Inside the Ropes, that they were going to create a game based on a lot of independent wrestlers, and there was like thresholds that you could pay in order to get on the game or something like that. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not the same one. But I might have to go back.
I can't remember the life of me what it's called, but I just remember seeing a few like videos on YouTube with like wrestlers in game doing promos and stuff, and it looked interesting.
Yeah.
Jimmy says, "What's that new retro wrestling game that released recently?" Got to try saying that after a drink.
Retromania, is it something like that?
It was, yeah. I think it's retro. Yeah, it is. It's something like that. Retromania, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's we talked about it earlier. The old wrestling arcade game, WrestleFest. It's basically a spiritual successor to that. It's got like Blue Meanie and stuff in it like that. It's got the Blue World Order. It's got John Morrison and people who weren't. I mean, a lot of them have been and gone from WWE since that game came out. But I've not played it, but it looks good. And you can actually buy an arcade machine of that now as well. It's not Arcade 1-Up; it's one of the other ones. But,
can you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I want to finish on one final question to all three of you. Probably, put you on the spot a little bit, but hey ho, you've got a bit of thinking time. Favorite wrestling game of all time? Let's start with our special guest over here.
Special Sean.
Yeah, special Sean.
Well, I've sort of harped on about it it's boring. It's no mercy. I've got so many hours pumped into that game, and like I said, the memories of nostalgia for me will always live long for me with that game. You know, it's a game that I can throw on and I can remember where I played it, what I was listening to, and yeah, I mean, No Mercy, hands down for me, the winner.
Yeah. Pete?
It's going to have to be 2K14 just because, I mean, not only was it a really good game, but it also single-handedly got me back into wrestling again. And then, by extension, got my wife, Susie, back into wrestling. Well, not back into wrestling, but into wrestling in the first place. And kickstarted a whole, like, I mean, we used to have, like, viewing parties for WrestleMania and stuff like that, well, for every pay-per-view. It just got us, for a couple of years, we were, like, just lived and breathed wrestling. It was all because of that game.
Sean. Big Daddy Sean, Big Clan Posse Sean.
There's a lot of pressure on this one. I was looking forward to this one.
Yeah. Is there any wrestling games that you would sort of say that you class as a favourite, or something that we've talked about tonight that if you like the sound of, that perhaps you'd like to go and sort of investigate for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to try the more modern ones, purely because of, the realism. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to take on board what Sean's suggested to me. So hopefully on the next podcast, I'll be able to tell you just what I thought of those games. So,
That's
yeah.
Okay. I know. I say no to put you on the spot a bit because it's not really something that you know an awful lot about, or games that you've got a lot of experience with. I mean, obviously Sean's bit the subject. Pete, I know has been a big wrestling fan in recent years, and I was a massive fan for probably about 15 years myself. So I played pretty much every single game that came out I can get my hands on. So appreciate that. Put you on the spot a little bit, mate. But do some research.
We've had a laugh.
We've had a laugh. Do some research and do an update. We'll have an update next time you're on, and then you can tell us all about it. That'll be good. Got the piece I posted there's in the chat. James just following up that Retromania thing, saying it's like WrestleFest but far too difficult. James says WrestleFest is his favourite wrestling game. Rob's also agreed. Simple, effective, colourful, fun and nostalgic. I mean, that's a fantastic way to describe it. Again, it captures that mid to sort of very early 1990s feel to it when it was so popular back here and what people remembered from. So Masubi's just jumped in to say the social media wrestling thingy. Last two in the ring is going to be me and Chicken. We'll see really who has the power then. Oh, dear. Power.
I spent a fortune on the advertising for that. I will not have it called thingy. I'm sorry. Guys, it's the social media champion. Jesus, look at the copyright. Head over to the video, anyone that wants to enter that which leads nicely there. Head over to the video and just pop a comment on.
Yeah, if you're not sure what we're talking about, social media thing, as Sean mentioned earlier, and if you didn't catch it, just to rewind and watch that a bit earlier. But we got social media wrestling championship coming up in January. 30 YouTubers in it, mate. That's the best way to describe it. 30 YouTubers, all cutting promos, all picking characters, and there's going to be a Royal Rumble in January to decide the social media champion, and there's going to be a physical prize as well. You'll get to have your own belt or something on it, so you can display it and show off to other people. Bragging rights. There we go. 3 spots available. I'll tell you, 3 spots available. Actually, left.
There's only 2 now because I checked.
2 spots available. One's gone already.
2 left. One's gone already. One thing I really want to stress is if people do want to make their own wrestlers, I think it would really add to the video. And all I need is a memory card, and I will send the memory card back. It'll just add to it. It'll be a bit of a laugh, and then I'll throw them in the game and pop them in the Royal Rumble. So.
And you're using a PlayStation 2, aren't you? PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2. The exact game I'm using is Talk Amongst Yourselves.
Anybody interested? There's the link to Sean's channel below to go and see what it's all about. You'll see what it is. That's the game he's using.
Yep, using that for the one. So effectively, all I need is a memory card with a created wrestler. You don't need to do the attributes or anything. So like I said, there's a cheat on this as well that I can put in and put everyone at 90. They all go in the ring together, and then it's whoever comes out. What I'm probably going to do is film 3 Rumbles, and then everyone who comes on the live stream will all select, and whatever Rumble gets the most votes will play, and that's who the champion will be. That's the fairest way I can do it, because I don't really think I'll be able to stream it live. I'm not that capable. so I know my limits. So anyway.
Sounds a lot of fun, that, John, actually. You don't need to know about wrestling or
I want to see your created wrestler, Sean. I want to see your created wrestler.
I might just do that.
If you actually, I tell you what, Sean, if you're going to play a wrestling game, get in on this. If you've got a PS2, those SmackDown Wrestle War games are like $5 at most. Do that. Bung me a memory card, send it over because it would be great. It would be so much fun. So it's going to be really good fun, I think. So 2 places left, people.
Have you still got that SmackDown game, Sean, or has it gone?
No, it's gone. But
it's gone.
Like I say, I can pick it up. I can pick it up easily.
Yeah. Somebody send Sean a copy so he can have it again.
But I will say I'm going by the video for people that have entered, so I will forget.
Yeah.
So if you want to do it, just bung a comment on say entered, and then what I'll do is I'll just basically contact you closer to the time, either to select a wrestler or send me a memory card because I'm going to forget otherwise. So
Rob said he wants to be the hand that hit Sami Zayn at the last WrestleMania. That was good. That was I know what
that
you're
was
talking
good.
about.
I like that. Yeah,
that was a great match. That was best match on the card.
It was.
And very, very quickly, just because I did my favourite wrestling game of all time. For me, it's got to be Wrestle War because that's the most nostalgic. I played that in the arcade. I finished it in the arcade. I nearly finished it in the arcade. I used to have people watch me playing it, and I got the Mega Drive version when I bought my Mega Drive second hand, and it was in there. And now, once I got rid of it, I now got a nice clean copy with a cracking manual, the Yang tab in place, everything else. So that is my favourite for nostalgic reasons. Probably the wrong reason, but whatever. So there we go.
That's a great game.
Yeah, I love it. Right, there we go. So we've done our 2 hours, which is beautifully timed. So we will finish it there. I'd like to thank first of all my special guest this evening, our special guest this evening, Sean from Pompey Games. It's been an absolute blast having you on, mate. I've really enjoyed it, and I think people can see there from what you've been talking about your passion for the subject, which is even better as well, because that's why we have people on to talk about things that they enjoy. So
I did notice I spoke louder whilst I was talking about the wrestling.
That's all right.
Everything shouting a promo. So.
Yeah, that's it. You get into promo mode, aren't you? So that's it. Yeah. So, but no, thank you for coming on, mate. It was great to have you on, and we'll have you back again, I'm sure, in the future to discuss wrestling or something else. To my fellow tNb members below, Pete and Sean, thank you very much for giving up your time again and sweating it out with everybody else. this fan hasn't helped much anyway, but great to have you on again, guys, and thanks for giving up your time, and we'll see you again very soon, I'm sure. So I'll drop you all backstage, have a quick chat afterwards, but if you'd like to give everybody a wave as I send you off, and I'll talk to you in a moment, okay? There they go, the Insane Clown Posse, all 3 of them. Right, well, that's a surprising reveal tonight. I didn't know that about Sean, did you? There we go. Thanks to everybody who's been in the chat tonight. Thanks to James, to Rob, to Trev, Jimmy Retro, good to see you about. Mate Dylan was in here as well. Danny, all sorts of people. I don't forget people's names. Joe, Rach, Claire, Susie, all of you. Thank you so much indeed for contributing once again. Just to remind you, we are back now in 15 days' time, hopefully, with a guest, because the guest who contacted me ages ago to come and do the bank holiday guest slot has not responded to me, so I'll be trying to get hold of them desperately. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but it's going to be bank holiday Monday, 29th of August at 8 o'clock on this channel. We're back with the next episode of the podcast. If the guest, I can't find a guest, I don't know what it is. In the meantime, if you want to be a guest, there is a link at the bottom, which a message at the bottom which says, if you want to be a guest, there you go. 8th October, 22nd of October, the next 2 dates I've got. My email address is there. Drop me a line, whatever you want to talk about. Happy to have you on as a guest. I'm booked up through September. We've got 2 podcasts in September. I've got 2 guests lined up for that already done. So October is where I'm looking at next. And we'll see what happens on the 29th of August. That could be quite fun anyway. So that's it. Yeah, so 2 weeks time in a day, 15 days time, 29th of August. We will see you again. If you're around next Saturday, I'll be doing Fall Guys Super Saturday as well on my channel, which has been going very well the last few weeks. So quite a few players come along. So if you've got Fall Guys, come along and join in that as well. Once again, a massive congratulations to Gernaldinho for beating 1 million game score, and I mentioned it at the start. Fantastic achievement again, Rob. Go across to Rob's channel and watch that stream and see that magic moment there, and go back and watch some of his other videos about how he got to it. It's a good thing to do as well. In the meantime, I'm going to stop waffling now. I'm going to have a nice cool drink. I think we should all do the same. Thanks very much indeed for watching. We will see you again very soon. But until then, do take care and bye for now.